My name is Jim Lorenz, and I was youth pastor at the Roseville Church in the late 90s. And that is when I got to have the Bullock kids come through my youth group. And Katie, Justin, Andrew, Felicia, and even Angela was in there too. And I think back to those days, and Justin always had a smile on his face. You could joke with him. In fact, we would tease him. Uh, I distinctly remember this pair of pants he had. They weren't parachute pants. They're kind of a combination of cargo and parachute pants. They were different. They were orange. Different construction and orange on top of it. And we would give him a hard time a little bit. Not too bad, but I kind of tease him about him just getting out of jail. And I'm wondering where the top was because he often wore like a white t-shirt with them, and he liked those pants and he wore them a lot. And but he had a great sense of humor, and he would just laugh at what you were saying and just kind of go on. In fact, that's the memory I have of him, smiling, joking. Uh, I we took a mission trip together down to Calexico, to the academy down at the mission school, and I just remember he just being such a hard worker on that trip, but also just laughing and goofing around, doing different things. In fact, I think there was one night that he and a number of the kids, while several of us were sleeping, uh, they had some fun. Um, Maybe not when they were supposed to be. They're supposed to have been sleeping, but Justin, it was all in good fun. Had a good time. It's I've been asked to read a life sketch that Brian wrote with the family's help. And this is an honor that I feel honored to do, but wish I wasn't doing it. And Justin, a gift that God gave this world in the form of Justin, was too short of a time to have experienced this gift that we knew as Justin. Here's what Brian wrote. Justin Douglas Bullock was born on July 30, 1985, at the Kaiser Morris Avenue Hospital in Sacramento. When he came home, he was adapting to normal home routine and nursing very well, gaining 2 pounds in a couple of weeks. Although at birth he seemed perfectly healthy, at his 2-week checkup, he was diagnosed with coarctation of the aorta. We were experiencing some car challenges at the time, and we almost didn't keep that appointment. Fortunately, Peggy and I decided she and Justin would keep that appointment, which turned into one of the first of several life-saving events that God directed in Justin's life. We had not planned on Peggy and little Justin spending the next several weeks in San Francisco at Moffitt Medical Center. But that is where they went by ambulance, as the pediatric cardiologist, Dr. John, explained what corrective actions would be taken during surgery. Justin's heart was already showing some thickening of the heart walls, indicative of the beginnings of congestive heart failure. So he is blessed that the doctors had noticed the very faint symptoms and followed up with an echocardiogram. If it had gone a couple of days longer, the doctors told it would have been doubtful if he would have survived. A few weeks later, Justin was back home recovering from his experimental surgery. We were so thankful how God had guided already in his life. As a young boy up to the age of 11, Justin was full of energy, curiosity, and willing to take on any activity at that time. When we were visiting one of our friends, the Gibsons, one day, Doug remarked how Justin had such an inherent zest for life. Whether it was at the park or in the roller ice skating rink, riding a bike, he took on any challenge. He didn't seem to have the fear of factor, which concerned us some, but that approach to life helped him in his growth as he learned various skills. During this season of life, Justin's creativity became quite apparent. He would make various tools and implements from just sticks, rocks, and rubber bands or string that were amazingly functional. His brother Andrew thought Justin was amazing and sought to do things that his big brother did. Justin's imagination was amazing. He would ask about we would ask about why he had created each implement. One favorite theme was the creation of hunting weapons, and he would explain that he and Andrew were going to go on what he called a hunting moon. Peggy often said if she were lost in the wilderness, she would want Justin with her because he seemed to be able to make strong, functional tools, snares, or weapons that would likely help in any survival situation. Justin's bigger-than-life hero was his Grandpa Bullock. Arnold would always make time to hear about Justin's ideas and answer Justin's questions. Some of the most treasured events in Justin's life were the times he, Andrew, and Brian went to Eagle Lake with Grandpa. There were all kinds of activities to enjoy, like developing skills with the axe, hatchet, bow, and arrow, and shooting targets with real guns, as well as fishing for several, or even occasionally catching the famous native Eagle Lake trout. The focus and pride he and his brother showed as they followed Grandpa's instructions on how to clean and prepare the trout they caught was priceless. Grandpa always had some limbs and small logs on our property at Eagle Lake for the boys to cut up using a buck saw or hatchets. He taught them how to safely use these tools, and the pride of this kind of responsible activity, well, you could almost smell the testosterone permeating the atmosphere within our camp. Cooking the fish they caught on the campfire was the cherry on the sundae. Also at this point in his life, Justin had the abilities and talents to learn and do many different kinds of things. If he had an interest in something, he had an amazing ability to focus on learning and developing new skills. When he was about 5 years old, we purchased a toy harmonica for him. Soon he was playing songs so well that we purchased a beginner harmonica for him to use. He would play the harmonica so much, he wore several out. And then Peggy was singing with the Roger Peden Chorale group on weekends. These were great family outings through which the children and parents made lasting friendships. Justin would bring his harmonica and play for us in the car, and during various times we were waiting for the concerts to start. One of the chorale members was so impressed he bought a chromatic harmonica that allowed Justin to play in multiple keys. As his talents became known, he played for several events, including accompanying Peggy as she sang Amazing Grace at a graveside service, playing several songs for a senior lady's birthday party at Sac Central, and playing for Sacramento Central's church service when he was 10. At the age of 11, Justin decided he wanted to be baptized, and Pastor Ken Swanson baptized him at Woodside Adventist Church on November 30, 1996. The song he played that Sabbath on his harmonica was a current family favorite song sung by Wintley Phipps, as we sail to heaven's shore. Woodside Church family was a very important part of our children's lives. While there weren't many children there at that time, the various adults that attended were a significant extended family to our children. The various churches' functions and socials were tremendously enjoyed by our whole family, and the adult members there made children all feel special. We had a small group Bible study and game night on Saturday nights at our house that created even closer bonds with a smaller group of friends. We had a video of a rubber band battle during the game portion of these events between the two boys, Justin and Andrew, and the grown-up men of the group. Those two boys were forced to be reckoned with as they rained down rubber bands from the loft while the men fired up at the boys. The accuracy of the boys' skills was displayed by the marks left on several of the men. Rick and Chris Johnson lived across the back fence in our neighborhood, and we would pass Justin over the fence to Rick so Justin could mow the lawn. Precious memories. At the start of Justin's early teen years and Katie's early youth years, we made the difficult decision to move our membership to the Roseville Adventist Church so our growing brood would have an active youth division in which to grow. Pastor Jim Lorenz, Nancy Schneiderwin, and Rachel Ruda were developing a youth division that was appealing. Since we had moved to Roseville about a year before, this was an appealing location as well. Here, Justin and Zach Reiber became close friends. They're both creative, musical, and love to do challenging things. Zach recorded a video of some of these memories to include in this memorial video of Justin's life. Zach was like another son to our family, and Justin was like a brother to Zach as well. About 12 years old, Justin began to have some challenges with depression. These weren't a constant at this time, but nevertheless created a new challenge for him and us, his family. He still had a great, quick sense of humor most of the time, but there would be significantly challenging times when it was apparent that he was struggling. Being a very strong personality and priding himself on learning by reading, he worked to handle these struggles in his own way. He was adamant about not seeking counsel because he couldn't be willing to go with the currently accepted prescribed approaches. For most of his acquaintances and later work relationships, this wasn't apparent, but to his parents, teachers, and some others, it was a concern. Justin developed an interest in art about this time and had some natural talent that he developed into something in which he found relief. His art was very good for his age, and he studied some methods in using various media to create pictures and some carvings. In fact, we used a black and white sketch he made of Grandpa Bullock, who had fallen asleep during one of our visits to the Care Center for Arnold's Memorial Bulletin in January 2006. This part of Justin's life was more challenging than typical challenges most experienced during the early to mid-teen years. In addition to art, which helped him to focus on something positive, he decided he would like to take karate. We enrolled him at the East-West Karate, where they had a very heavy emphasis on both respect and karate skills. Again, his abilities, focus, and level of practice took him to third-degree brown belt in about a year and a half. To his additional credit, while he enjoyed the sparring sessions and being able to sometimes outscore some black belt opponents, he was more into the disciplines and respect of the martial arts. He would practice katas continuously, sometimes to the annoyance of those around him. As Justin progressed in karate, he began to purchase and read books in various forms of the martial arts. During one trip to Eagle Lake, he brought along his latest purchase of Tai Chi. This was not a cheap book, and very in-depth about Tai Chi. On one of our long, unsuccessful fishing efforts, trolling from our fishing boat, he decided he had had enough fishing for the day and began to read his book. We were headed back at trolling speed, and Andrew, about 9 at the time, asked Grandpa if he could steer the boat. Grandpa and Andrew were in the middle of the changing places in a 14-foot watercraft when Grandpa lost his balance but managed to land inside the boat. However, this rocked the boat so suddenly that Justin's book flew out of his hands into the lake. Justin instinctively jumped into the water to retrieve his precious book while the boat continued slowly pulling away. We recovered and got back to Justin before he became waterlogged. Henceforth, we dubbed him Swimming Dragon. Justin dug even more deeply into the martial arts, but unbeknownst to us, started to encounter the mysticism that is tied to some of the martial arts. He kept reading these books because of his interest in the arts, but one night he awakened in his bedroom with the feeling of a dark, oppressive, and evil presence in the room. Recognizing what was going on, he asked for God's help and proceeded to collect all his martial art books. He took the pile of books into the back part of our lot and burned them. Then he went back to bed. He didn't tell us about this until the next morning. We were thankful that God had again intervened in his life and that he was willing to burn those books that he had prized so much. A little later, we took one of our traditional family vacations to Redwood Camp Meeting. These times were prized by all of us, and Justin enjoyed the freedom of participating with friends he had made over the years there and just hanging out with them. As usual, Rio Linda Academy had made their booth at Redwood Camp Meeting, and he became interested in attending Rio. He asked about the possibility of attending there for the coming school year. We talked with those men in the booth about the benefits of attending Rio, and we thought this would be a positive opportunity for Justin. It's a big stretch for the family financially. We worked out a plan, opportunity for Justin. And we included him in needing to work 15 hours a week to make it work. He agreed to do this, and he had a good work ethic. So immediately, we went into preparation mode to make this happen. Even at Rio Linda, he continued to practice karate katas and moves so as to keep those skills. I think this impressed his friends as well. On weekend of the talent program, he decided he would perform one of his katas and finish his demonstration by breaking 3 cement brick pavers. I asked him if he'd done this before, and he said no, but he's sure he could do it. He asked us to bring 6 cement pavers, 3 for practice shot and 1 for actual performance. During his practice attempt, he broke 2 of the 3 pavers. However, as he finished his 125 move kata, he successfully crushed the pavers, breaking each into 3 segments. Needless to say, the students were very impressed, as were the judges, and he won second prize that night. That was a very high moment for him and for the family who had come to see him perform. He enjoyed the experience, the relationships at Rio, but wasn't keeping up with his studies or his portion of the work to make it financially possible for him to stay. We had to call him to let him know that we were coming to pick him up, one of the hardest days of all of our lives. To his credit, Justin didn't make it harder than it was. A couple of nights before, he was up late in the lobby studying, and the dean asked him what was going on. He told him that he might have to go home because he wasn't keeping his part of the deal. The dean was impressed with his candor and willingness to own it. Justin was fair that way. Another endearing trait. Justin finished up high school through the Horizon Charter School program, and by this time was extremely interested in a certain redhead he had met at church. After dating a while, he and Angela decided they would like to spend the rest of their lives together. He had worked at Sunrise Natural Foods, and he and Angela decided that it would not be sufficient for them to support their family. So they went through a program where they learned how to be nursing assistants and graduated with certifications in this field. One interesting thing about their marriage that most people don't likely know, they were actually married twice. Some church friends had generously offered their Tahoe place for the honeymoon, and so they had that available based on the original planned date for their wedding. Something happened. I don't remember what, but the wedding date had to be postponed a week or two. Well, the cabin wasn't available that date, so the resourceful couple visited just of the peace to be married so they could go to the cabin as originally planned weekend. Then their official ceremonial wedding happened a week or two later. I don't think I know of another couple having 2 anniversaries to celebrate. After an adventure or 2 to Walla Walla College, Justin and Angela decided to settle back in Citrus Heights. Justin had learned some of the baking and cooking skills where Angela was taking classes. Justin worked as a nursing assistant at times, but also worked as a cook at various restaurants, small and large. In both professions, he made good friends and people enjoyed working with him. His diligence in doing things well combined with the sense of humor he had, even in tough times, resulted in quite a number of friendships. You will see and hear of them in this video. Thank you to those of you who provided those video memories of your experiences with Justin. During this time, Justin and Angela had their first child, Isabella Rose, on November 3, 2005. They were proud of the little girl, and several years later, Dane Irwin was born December 18, 2008. We all got together at the parks in the area and did some hikes together as well. Justin's family loved the outdoors. Justin worked as a nursing assistant at Sutter, where the pay and benefits are good, but it was very hard for him to push through the continual pain and suffering he saw. Additionally, he was more holistic minded in regards to treatments. So it's difficult seeing patients given medicines that didn't cure their illnesses or just dealt with symptoms. He had just quit working at Sutter Medical Center in Sacramento and began working again in the restaurant industry. On September 11, 2013, he fell ill. He went to ER at Sutter Roseville, and they ran him through a battery of tests, trying to determine the source of his symptoms. A little sideline of humor during the hospital stay, the dietitian brought him a tray of pureed food, tough for anyone to want, especially for someone who worked in the restaurant industry. And when he said, "What is that?" and pointed to a particular item on the tray, the answer was steak. He quickly replied, "No, it's not." We brought in some recognizable food for him to enjoy. One of the tests was an echocardiogram. It indicated that Justin's aorta was dissecting. He was in immediate danger of bleeding out, so they rushed him downtown, where Dr. Kincaid and his team performed open heart surgery on Justin, which saved his life. It was a tough recovery, having a replacement valve placed in his heart and a replacement vein for part of his aorta. The doctor said they don't usually find this condition until they're performing a post-mortem. Another time, God intervened to save Justin's life. Eventually, he recovered to all appearances. His former co-workers provided generous donations to help Justin's family with some expenses during this time. After prolonged recovery, Justin worked as a cook for a while. During this time, he worked at some of the finest restaurants in Sacramento region, Hawks, Ella's, The Kitchen, as well as various bistros. Then for a short time, he went to work at Sutter Roseville as a nursing assistant, hoping to push through his previous anxieties. One day, walking from his car to the medical center, he had a seizure. When he became conscious, he had 8 men restraining him. He was disoriented and claustrophobic, which greatly exacerbated his anxieties. He went through many tests to find the cause of the seizures, but to no avail. He tried various holistic solutions, but they didn't help. The medicines had side effects that had caused additional problems. Because of the various subsequent seizure occurrences, he eventually had to accept that he couldn't work. A very difficult thing to accept for a 30-something-year-old man. Angela went to work as a nursing assistant at Sutter Roseville Hospital to provide for the needs of the family, as well as medical insurance. On October 13, 2020, after feeling ill for several days and thinking he had the flu, Justin went to ER at Sutter Roseville. They ran every test they could to determine what was happening to his system. His condition was worsening, so he was transferred to Sutter ICU downtown, where the best of the best performed further tests and started treatments. He was diagnosed with a sepsis infection, which they determined had come from an abscess on his aorta, where the surgical repair had been performed 7 years before. By this time, the infection spread to his joints throughout his body. There were at least 7 or 9 IVs providing a cocktail of antibiotics as well as other needed fluids because he couldn't eat or drink. Within a few days, he had to be intubated. But try as they might, the staff were unable to reverse his condition. They had to keep him unconscious because of the pain, but monitor all of his signs to be sure that the dosages weren't excessive or creating other life-threatening issues. Many of the staff, including Dr. Kincaid, had been part of the team that saved his life 7 years prior. Additionally, some of them had worked with him when he was at Sutter Downtown. It was personal to them. However, on November 5, 2020, it was apparent he wasn't coming back to us. And at 8:12 p.m., with his wife, parents, and siblings around him, Justin went to his rest. At 2 weeks old, he was on a respirator until his body could recover from surgery at Moffitt Hospital. Now his life had come full circle, back on a respirator, but this time his body couldn't recover, and God mercifully gave him rest. Through God's grace and mercy, we expect to see Justin again with the same energy and zest for life forever.
Hello, everyone. My name is Raveen Patel. I had the honor and pleasure of working alongside Justin over a decade ago at Ella Dining Room and Bar here in Sacramento, California. When I think about Justin and what brings back memories of him is his kind of infectious laugh and giggle that he used to have, which still to this day, when I think of Justin, that's the first thing I remember, which is pretty awesome. So I know he's out there looking down upon us, smiling and kind of with that same giggle and laugh, which will always be a fond memory. So Justin, if you're out there, keep smiling and we'll always remember you.
I was a friend and a coworker, met Justin back in probably about 2011, 2012 at Sutter Memorial when I was on the med-acute floor at 3 Center, and I knew Justin as a friend. He was a lot of fun, amazing, hard worker, and just a man with a big heart. And I didn't see Justin for years because we grew to moving and merging the two hospitals, and I actually went to ICU and became an ICU nurse back in 2013. And I came about being one of Justin's nurses in the ICU when he was very, very sick. And it was really hard because when I first saw him, he was still awake and talking. And then we got to a point where he was really sick and he didn't make it, and he was in the heart of all of us on the unit. But I am so sorry for all that you're going through and what you must be feeling. But Justin was an amazing person. He was a man, again, with a big heart and always willing to lend a helping hand and a big team player. So again, I'm so sorry for your loss, and thank you very much for reaching out. The whole unit in the ICU and the unit back on, that was 3 Center at Memorial, all send their love.
Hello, everyone. I'm Merhan Mesbah. I'm an old friend of Justin's from Roseville Adventist Church. I had the good fortune of spending the day with Justin a couple of weeks before he went to the hospital. During our time together, he spoke of many things, of how much he loved couch time with Dane, of the young lady Bella was growing up to be, and how much he loved Angela and his family. We also spoke of difficult things, his depression, his health, panic attacks, and how he strived to be the best man he could through it all. We talked about God, philosophy, funny YouTube videos, and the state of the world. What it means to be a son, to be a father, a partner, and a friend. Through all the joys and troubles of life, Justin spoke of a deep appreciation and love for his family, and for Bella, Dane, and Angela. To all of his friends and family, my most sincere condolences.
Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. And you have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. And oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God.
I think Justin won our hearts the first time we saw him. He was racing down the aisle of the Woodside Church as fast as he could toddle, wearing only a diaper and a t-shirt. He had reached the top of the podium stairs before his dad caught him. His face was lit with a big smile, excitement, and determination. And it seems to me that that's how he embraced life. I can remember watching him and the other kids playing tag and hide and seek around the church. I remember his laugh and his great smile. He seemed to be comfortable with people, making friends wherever he went. To this day, the employees at Trader Joe's remember him with smiles. He didn't seem concerned with differences. He wasn't afraid to explore new ideas and ways, and he seemed to enjoy adventures. How pleased we were when he and Angela chose to spend their lives together. One nativity drive-through, Justin and Angela played Mary and Joseph in the manger scene, and it seemed just right. I look forward to Justin's posts on Facebook. He seemed to have so many interests, like cooking and baking, bicycles and motorcycles, bits of wisdom collected from Eastern sages and comedians, and spending time with his family. Justin will always have a place in our hearts. And when this crazy struggle of life as we know it is over, and there are no more time constraints or worries or pains, I would like us all to get together for a great visit. Who knows, maybe Justin will cook us a great meal and we'll spend the afternoon laughing and exploring together.
Hi, I'm Erin. I grew up in the Roseville SDA Church along with Justin and Angela and the rest of the Bullock kids. I have really fond memories of growing up there and feeling like I was one of the Bullocks. They pseudo-adopted me into their family as an only child. I grew up in a quiet house, and the Bullock house was always loud and fun and lots of laughter, and I remember just loving being with them. Justin was always a really nice guy. He was very kind to me. He had a great sense of humor. I can remember when he and Zach would get going and I would be crying, tears streaming down my face. I was laughing so hard. Had a great sense of humor. I remember him loving music. Always had headphones on, a CD Walkman. That might be dating me, but loved music, played guitar, having jam sessions. That house was always filled with music, and I loved that. And I will always have fond memories of Justin. I want the Bullock family, all of you, to know that he is not forgotten. I will never forget Justin. And I am praying for you, each of you, through your grief, that you might find comfort, and praying that Jesus comes soon and takes us all home to heaven, that we can be reunited with him. Just know that I'm praying for you and sending love from Connecticut.
Hello, my name is Zach, and just a childhood friend of Justin, and he was my best friend growing up. And so to the friends and family that are all missing him, I'm so sorry. Just not just that Justin passed, but that it had this time when we can't get together in person and just share and comfort one another. It's makes it even more difficult. But Angela asked me to share a few memories of Justin, and I'd be happy to. I think we started hanging out when I was like 9 or 10, and kept hanging out for all through high school. We drifted apart after that, but I like to think that Justin, I'm sure he changed and matured a lot from the Justin I knew, but there's some things about people that just stay the same, and I have such great memories of my friend. And a lot of them revolved around what I know to be so core to who Justin was. He's just a free-spirited, creative guy, and so some of the memories I remember him being so creative and talented as an artist. We would be drawing pictures in church when we should have been paying attention to what they were saying, and he kept drawing and kept sketching. I remember he had these sketchbooks full of just amazing and just creative things. He could see something and just copy it. I remember that same creativity and free-spirited was often directed into mischief. We got into a lot of trouble. I remember we would take fireworks apart and take the sparkler powder or the poppers apart and put all of the explosive stuff into larger and larger containers. And I think one of Justin's proudest moments that I saw, biggest smile anyways, he made this Tic Tac box full of, we just filled it up with things that were probably dangerous. And he waited till Brian got home to show his dad, and we exploded it on the the front driveway. And I don't know, Brian, I don't know if you were impressed or not, or if you just hit it really well because you didn't want to encourage him, but Justin was pretty proud that, I think he shocked you a little bit, and then Justin was pretty proud of that. And one memory, I don't think I've told another soul, because Justin would have gotten in big trouble. We were camping on a church campout, and we found some old lighters, and we buried them at the bottom of the fire pit before they built the fire. And just at some random moment later on that evening, they exploded. I guess the pressure and whatever fuel was left in them, and this is just big fireball that went up from the fire pit. And the campers who were, just down the way started applauding, and because we were on our church camp out, and they were all drunk at the next fire pit, and they started cheering and applauding because it was a good show. But all of those good memories of Justin, I just remember he just created joy. There was a lot of really happy memories because Justin, in his I don't know how to describe it, his love for life and his love for people, made all of these positive memories in my life and in the lives of the people around him. He'll really be missed, and all of those stories. I just believe that, I believe in what we learned in church, and I can't wait for the best of who Justin was to come out of that grave, and maybe one more good memory to add to the list. But until then, my prayers to the family, and hope you guys find a lot of comfort in all of these stories.
Well, I've heard those city singers singing about how they can love deeper than the oceans, higher than the stars above. Well, I come from the country, and I know I ain't seen it all, but I heard that ocean's salty and the stars they sometimes fall, and that would not do justice to the way I feel for you. So I had to sing a song about all the things I knew. My love is deeper than the holler, stronger than the river, higher than the pine trees growing tall upon the hill. My love is purer than the snowflakes that fall in late December, and honest as a robin on a springtime windowsill, and longer than the song of a whippoorwill. From the back roads to the Broadway shows with 1,000,000 miles between, there's at least 1,000,000 love songs that people love to sing. And everyone is different, and everyone's the same, and this is just another way of saying the same thing. My love is deeper than the holler, stronger than the river, higher than the pine trees growing tall upon the hill. My love is purer than the snowflakes that fall in late December, and honest as a robin on a springtime window song of a whippoorwill. My love is deeper than the holler, stronger than the river, higher than the pine trees growing tall upon the hill. My love is purer than the snowflakes that fall in late December, and honest as a robin on a springtime windowsill, and longer than the song of a whippoorwill. A whippoorwill.
Hi, my name is Jane. I worked with Justin on 3 Center. I'm really sorry to hear about Justin. I couldn't believe it when I read it on Facebook that he had passed. Justin was a great guy. He had the best sense of humor, great personality. After he left 3 Center, we kind of stayed in touch on Facebook, posting different things, and him and I kind of always liked the same things, and he would post something and I would share it, and vice versa. I just think he was a great guy, and I just can't imagine how the family's going on without him. I just really miss seeing him on Facebook. Anyway, you take care. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Joe. I knew Justin from working with him at Akibono about 15 years ago. I was actually really upset about his hire. I was new to sushi and wanted to learn from a traditional Japanese chef, and the owner hired a young Caucasian chef with no experience. But Justin ended up being a great coworker, an amazing friend, and was a mentor to me. He introduced me to books by Anthony Bourdain and Marco Pierre White, and introduced me to new foods and new techniques, and made me a better chef and a better person. I am very sad that, he didn't really get to be as successful as I know he would have been as a chef. But I'm very happy that even though his life was cut short, I had the opportunity to be his friend and get to know him. And I hope that our kids grow up to be friends so they can be as lucky as I was to have a friend like Justin. Okay, that's it.
Hi, my name's Liz. I worked with Justin at Sutter Memorial Hospital, and I can say that Justin was always a hard worker and so compassionate. He genuinely cared about people. We would talk about homeless people and just people that his family had reached out to in the past, and I just always admired that he genuinely cared about people. And he was a hard worker, and he loved you, he loved his kids, and we always had talks about God and religion, and I just hope that you guys are doing okay. You'll be in my prayers and thoughts, okay? Take care.
Hi, Angela. My name is Lana Lehom. I worked with Justin at Sutter Memorial. The one word that came to mind about Justin is kind. He was such a kind man, had such a big heart. He never had anything negative to say about anybody. I so enjoyed his posts on Facebook, all the funny things he would post, and all the wonderful things he did with you and the kids. We miss him too, and it's such a sad loss for us and for you. Just take care of yourself, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Hi, Angela. My name is Darlene, and I worked with Justin at Memorial 3 Center as well. And the thing that always comes to mind for me with Justin is just the big smile. He always had a huge, genuine, warming smile. And I know you miss that, and we miss that. You are in our thoughts and prayers. And yeah, we want you to take care and just, you had a wonderful man.
Hello, I am Jason Timmons. I had the privilege of working with Justin. He was our head chef at the restaurant we owned for a while. I always look forward to working with him, and he was very talented. He was a very talented young man, and I'll never forget our talks, because we never just sat and talked about the weather or talked about any of these just small trivial things. Whenever we would talk about things, it would have to do with family, or it would have to do with something that had a very strong meaning to him or myself, and he was always very empathetic, and you felt like you connected with him whenever you would have a conversation with him. That was very important for me, because I looked for people like that, like Justin. It's a tragedy to lose somebody so young, so soon, and it seems like it's even more so when you get the honor to meet people like Justin. So it was very heavy on my heart when I heard the news. I've lost a lot of people young in my family, and the way that I've tried to hold them in my heart, close to me, is to always remember all the fond memories. And one of the things that Justin did was, I remember one day we were really busy, and one of the customers at the restaurant asked me, why was that guy wearing a captain's hat? And I had no clue what they were talking about. And I went to the food line, and there was Justin just, pumping out food and wearing a captain's hat. And I remember telling him, nice, I like that. And he said, oh yeah, I'll wear it occasionally. And he wore it a few more times, and it was always some type of a conversation piece amongst the customers. I wish that there was something that I could, say or do, but I know that the healing takes time, and I think celebrating somebody, especially somebody like Justin, that was special, is very important, in these times. But my heart goes out, and my deepest condolences to Justin's family and his wife Angela, and his kids and his family and friends. And I will make sure that I keep you in my prayers, and you can reach out to me for anything, anytime.
To everyone who's lost someone they love, long before it was their time, you feel like the days you had were not enough when you said goodbye. And to all of the people with burdens and pains, keeping you back from your life, you believe that there's nothing and there is no one who can make it right. And there is hope for the helpless, rest for the weary, and love for the broken heart. And there is grace and forgiveness and cry out to Jesus. For the millions that's struggling just to hang on, they've lost all of their faith and love, and they've done all they can to make it right again. Still it's not enough. And for the ones who can't break the addictions and chains, you try to give up, but you come back again. Just remember that you're not alone in your shame and your suffering. There is hope for the helpless, rest for the weary, and love for the broken heart. There is grace and forgiveness, mercy and healing. He'll meet you wherever you are. Cry out to Jesus. When you're lonely and it feels like the whole world is falling on you, you just reach out, you just cry out to Jesus. Cry to Jesus. To the widow who suffers from being alone, wiping the tears from her eyes, and for the children around the world without a home, say a prayer tonight. There is hope for the helpless, rest for the weary, and love for the broken heart. There is grace and forgiveness, mercy and healing. He'll meet you wherever you are. There is hope for the helpless, rest for the weary, and love for the broken heart. There is grace and forgiveness, mercy and healing. He'll meet you wherever you are. Cry out to Jesus. Cry out to Jesus. Oh, cry out to Jesus. Cry out to Jesus.
Justin was a really awesome big brother. One of my favorite things about having him as a big brother was that he was always encouraging to me, whether it was with my art or with guitar or basically any idea that I had expressed to him, having interest in it. He told me, do it. You just do it. And things like that came so easily to him. He could just do it. But I really enjoyed having that influence growing up, and I wanted to be like him so much because he was so amazing at so many things. I just wanted to be like that, and I'm so grateful that he was in my life and that he was there to encourage me. I remember one time when I was little, I couldn't go to a school trip because I was sick at the end of the year for my school, and he took me fishing. I think that was my first time fishing, and he did that just so that I wouldn't have to feel sad that I missed out. And I'll always remember that because that meant so much to me at the time and now, because he made sure that I still had fun. Hard to know what to say, but I really, really, really love him, and I'm gonna miss him so much.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Andrew Bullock. I'm Justin Bullock's brother. I just wanted to, first of all, say a huge thank you to anyone and everyone that sent in a little video or picture or anything. It really made this video super special. Justin was loved by very many people in many ways, and I'm gonna miss him a lot. I am, but he taught me a lot. Through some of the stuff he taught me was indirectly, and some of it was directly, but one of the happy things I remember about him is that he hated birthday cards. He did not like them at all. He thought they were hilariously stupid, that they were $9, $10, $12. And he goes, skip the card. Just skip the card. He goes, put more money into my gift. For 2 pieces of paper, he thought that was pretty ridiculous. I have a lot of good memories. A lot of good memories with Justin and my grandpa and my dad and all the fishing and stuff that we used to do. He was very encouraging to me in many ways. There are many different avenues of business or entrepreneurship, and he has always encouraged me. He always, one of the last conversations we had, he said that I really want this to work for you, Andrew. I really do. And if I knew that was the last time I was going to talk to him, I would have made that conversation last a little longer. I think it lasted about an hour anyway. And for those of you that know Justin, he wasn't a huge talker on the phone type of person, but he was very special. Very special to me. Him and I love talking about a new gun we saw or a new motorcycle we saw. I think about him all the time, especially now that the weather's changing here in California. It's everyone's pulling out their motorcycles and their custom motorcycles and putting up outdoor activities like kayaking or going shooting or anything like that. But I really don't know what else to say besides I will miss him, and in a blink of an eye, Justin, I will see you again.
When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved, and if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die. People do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away.
Want to say anything to Daniel or Grandma? Want to say anything to Grandma and Daniel?